It was so hard living with the guilt and shame that came with disappointing my parents. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Homali and I'm basically like your internet big sis. I share advice, tell stories, and talk about all the things that nobody wants to talk about. In today's video, I want to talk about a comment I get all the time as an outspoken, opinionated Indian woman that's just trying to live her best life. And that comment is, your parents must be so proud. Obviously meant in a sarcastic way. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times this has been said to me throughout my online career. So let's talk about it, shall we? I am so scared I'm going to get foundation or something on this white shirt, so I'm just gonna cover it. Watch me end up getting it on my sleeve. Anyways, my response to this comment is, I'm not trying to make my parents proud. Now hear me out, because whenever I say that, people always get their panties in a bunch. It's not that I don't want to make my parents proud. I think every child ultimately wants their parents' validation and wants their parents to be proud of them. But what I mean by I don't try to make my parents proud is I'm not making decisions based on whether or not they would approve of it. Do I take their advice and opinions into consideration? Yeah, of course. There's a lot of great things my parents have taught me and a lot of great values that they uphold. But that doesn't mean I'm going to do exactly what they want me to do and be exactly who they want me to be. As a South Asian person, I've noticed that a lot of times when we talk about making our parents proud, it's about following exactly what they want us to do. And if you steer away from that or steer away from anything traditional or question them about anything, then it's often seen as disrespectful. And when you're being disrespectful, of course, you're not making your parents proud. And I just don't really agree with any of that, you know? I think my parents are proud of me in regards to most aspects of my life, but maybe not all, and I'm totally okay with that. But I'm not gonna lie, it took me a long time to accept that they may not always be proud of all the decisions I make. When I was younger, I really used to struggle with the concept of making my parents proud. I wanted their love and validation like so bad it would eat at me. Oftentimes it ended up leaving me feeling really conflicted about my own values and choices, because let's be real, I grew up here in Canada and my parents grew up in India. We had a very different upbringings. So our beliefs, our values, our opinions, they were naturally going to be different from each other. My parents were a little bit more traditional and conservative, especially because my grandma lived with us, and I, on the other hand, was a lot more modern and liberal if you're gonna compare me to, like, I guess a traditional Indian girl. I think one thing that I had a really hard time understanding and grasping and accepting was I was a really good kid based on Western standards, but on Indian standards, I was 100% a rebellious child. So I was that kid that had a 90 average. I joined a lot of extracurriculars. I was always working. Like, I'd even come home from university on the weekends to work. I didn't even party that much. I didn't really drink much. Majority of the time, I was the designated driver. My teachers all loved me. I got scholarships. I basically never got into any type of serious trouble. You know, the type where you have to call your parents because you don't know what else to do and you need someone to bail you out. Yeah, that, I never had to do that. What I did do though was things like become a makeup artist, travel before I got married outside of my culture, moved in with that person that I married before I got married to them. I wore clothes that were a little bit more revealing. I also questioned a lot of things, never took no for an answer, constantly challenged my parents' values, beliefs, and authority. You know, things like that. Based on Western standards, I was basically a golden child, an angel, a kid that every parent dreams of. But based on traditional Indian parent standards, I was their worst nightmare. Oftentimes, oh, that's so pigmented, shit. Oftentimes within Indian culture, women are expected to be submissive, you know, don't talk back, don't question anything, do as you're told, shut up and listen. And I was very much the opposite of that, so that caused a lot of issues because the way I wanted to live my life and the way my parents thought I should be living my life were very, very different from each other. Our opinions especially differed when it came to major decisions in my life. So things like my career or who I was gonna marry or if I was gonna move out before I got married. And those were things that I wasn't willing to compromise on or listen to them about because I felt like I knew what was best for me in regards to those decisions. That's not to say I didn't take their opinions into consideration or like listen to them at all. But at the end of the day, the way I viewed it was I wanted to live a life that I loved and I didn't want to look back at my life with any regrets. And if I always did what they said, then I know for a fact I'd look back and regret a lot of decisions I had made because I knew they wouldn't be right for me. If you really think about it, if I made all my life decisions based on what they wanted or what would make them proud, then I would only be living my life for them. At what point would I be doing things that make me happy or align with my truth? If you're always making decisions based on what would make other people proud or what other people expect of you, then you're gonna end up with a life that you feel absolutely miserable in and you don't connect with at all. And I really didn't want to end up in my 40s or 50s just looking back at my life being like, how the hell did I get here? I also feel like if you're always following what they say and what they want because you want to make them proud, at what point do you start making decisions for yourself? Because one thing I've noticed about a lot of South Asian kids is that they are so undecisive and they don't actually truly know what they want. They've never explored it because they are so conditioned to always listen to their parents or their elders. And so they don't have any decision-making skills. Anyways, one thing I always thought about was once my parents are no longer with me, knock on wood, touch black, if I make all these decisions based on their happiness and what they want, who would I have done this all for? Because they would no longer be there to see it anymore. And I would have to, again, live with all these decisions. And I'm not saying any of this to justify like stupid decisions and to go out and do whatever the hell you want. Like obviously still be smart with things. I wasn't going around making uncalculated decisions and not taking their feelings and the impact that these decisions would have into consideration. But it's to say that you can't let someone's opinion completely derail you from living an authentic life. I very much think there was times it was important for me to listen to my parents where they were right. They had, good intentions and the advice they gave was solid, and I did listen to them in those situations. But then there was a lot of times where I felt like, especially because they didn't know my true self, like I felt like I couldn't always be myself around them. They didn't really understand what the best decisions were for me. Thankfully, I was also the type of person that surrounded myself with a lot of older people as well. So I felt more confident in my decisions because I wasn't blindly going into them. I still had the support of people that had been in those situations before and had grown up here, so they kind of understood me a little bit better. Anyways, all that to say, I basically always made calculated and informed decisions that felt right for me. But while I was very happy with my decisions and didn't have any regrets, it was so hard living with the guilt and shame that came with disappointing my parents. It's like, how could you not? Every child of an immigrant parent knows how much they sacrifice for you. So of course you want to pay them back for their sacrifices. You want to make them feel proud. You want to show them that they didn't sacrifice for nothing. But when you decide to do things your own way and, go against the grain, it really doesn't feel like you're paying them back for their sacrifices. It just sounds like you're creating more problems for them. So yeah, there's an immense amount of guilt and shame that comes with that. It honestly really sucks when you feel like you're in a position where neither of you can be happy at the same time. Like, your decisions aren't going to sit right with them and their decisions aren't going to sit right with you. So either you pay in your happiness or they pay in theirs. And for so long, I felt really bad for choosing my own happiness over theirs because, again, they sacrificed so much for me. But after a lot of therapy and inner work, I realized I was actually never going to fully make them happy. Because if they weren't upset about one thing, then it was going to be another. And if I didn't live life exactly how they wanted me to, which is, let's face it, impossible, then they were never truly going to be happy. So it was a lose-lose situation regardless. And after I realized that, I stopped seeking out their validation. I just felt like it wasn't serving me in any way to chase after that. All it was making me do was feel miserable and unworthy of love. And like, in what way is that helpful, As soon as I started letting go of that need for validation, things started getting so much better, like so much better. Because it let go of this pressure to be a certain way and achieve certain things in order to prove to them that I made the right decision or that I was happy or this was, the way it should be. Because I was always in this state of trying to prove them wrong, I was never able to truly enjoy my life. It's funny because now at 31, my parents accept me for who I am. They understand why I made the decisions I've made, and we have a lot more difficult conversations where we talk about our feelings and emotions and we don't just like bottle them up, which is obviously something we weren't doing when we were younger. And I think that came from me being able to rebel and make my own decisions and going down this journey of like healing and seeking therapy and whatnot. And it's been so interesting to watch my parents grow in ways that I thought they never would, and I don't even think they thought they ever would. Because believe it or not, now my parents have told me they're proud of me so many times before, which is, I think, very rare to hear an Indian parent say to their child. So personally, I think that's a huge win. There's this tweet by Adam Grant, and I think about it all the time. It says, too many people spend their lives being dutiful descendants instead of good ancestors. The responsibility of each generation is not to please their predecessors, it's to improve things for their offspring. It's more important to make your children proud than your parents proud. And I couldn't agree more. The way we move through the world today, our beliefs, our opinions, our values, those are all things that are going to be left behind for the future generations. And if we're not progressing with the times and trying to make the world a better place, especially compared to previous generations, then what's the point? And this is not to say that all the values, beliefs, morals, opinions of previous generations is bad and that you shouldn't uphold them, but there are definitely some that are toxic that need to be changed. And if changing those things and fighting for what's right makes your elders upset and not proud of you, then so be it. I know the decisions I've made, the stories I've told, and the opinions I hold have broken cycles of generational trauma and also dismantled a lot of sexist ideologies. And while it might not make my parents proud, I know it definitely makes the future generations proud, especially the future generations of women. And as long as I can live with that and I'm proud of that, then I don't really care if my parents are proud of me or not. But just to stick it to those who hate me and prey on my downfall, my parents have told me multiple times that they're proud of me, so suck it. Anyways, if you're struggling with the feeling of trying to make your parents proud or finding yourself constantly chasing after their validation, I want you to ask yourself a few questions. One, are the decisions, values, beliefs, opinions I hold actually bad or wrong or harmful, or are they just not traditional or the way that my parents would do it? Are you making the decision you're making solely because it'll make your parents happy and proud, or do you actually align with it? And if you do follow through with that decision, are you going to regret it later in life? Another question I want you to ask yourself is, am I proud of myself? Are the decisions I've made and opinions, values, and beliefs I uphold something I take pride in? And finally, the last question you need to ask yourself is, if I had children, or maybe you already do have children, would they be proud of me? Would they be proud of the life that I live? Would I want this same life for them? Am I leaving the world a better place for them? And I think the last one is super important, because when I think about my parents through that question, I'm extremely proud of who they are and what they've done for us. You know, there's obviously a lot of things we butt heads about and don't agree on, but overall, I do think my parents gave me a better life compared to the generation before them. And I know for a fact they've done things that their parents wouldn't necessarily be proud of. And I know that because I lived with my grandma all my life. And so yeah, I am very proud of them for that. I do think the work that they've done has left the world a better place for their children. And of course, there's always room for improvement, right? Like for me, if I were ever to be a parent, I'm sure my kids aren't always going to agree with everything I say and do, but that's just how it goes. I hope they continue to challenge the system just like I did and change things so that it's better for the future generations to come. Anyways, you know the drill. This is the final look. All the products I used have been linked on my LTK. The link will be in the description below. If there's any questions you want to ask me or topics you want me to cover in the next video, please let me know in the comments below or send me a message on Instagram. And if you did like this video, please do not forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel, and maybe share it with someone that needs to see it. As always, thank you so much for all the love and support you constantly show me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!